There's one question that most families never formally address until it becomes urgent. Not because it's complex, because it's assumed that someone else is responsible and has already solved it. The question is simple. What actually happens when Bitcoin needs to transition to the next generation? Not legally, operationally. Most trustees, executors, and advisors are experienced in wealth transfer, real estate, private equity, business interests, bank accounts, life insurance. All of those systems were built for inheritance. Bitcoin was not. Someone has to solve a problem that traditional estate planning was never designed to fix. The problem is the gap between legal authority and technical control, and those two are not automatically connected. The larger the digital allocation becomes, the more exposed the gap is. When attempting to confront this, most people typically start with one of the following paths: either third party custodians or independent self custody. Both are rational, both solve real problems, but neither automatically solves for continuity. Because in a transition event, the same operational questions appear regardless of structure. Who actually has authority to initiate transfers? Who has access to the system? Who understands the architecture well enough to avoid permanent mistakes? And who can coordinate the execution safely? These questions do not disappear with custody. They simply shift the process. And this is the real risk that most families miss. The system is not failing at storage, it is failing at transition execution. In self custody environments, the risk is obvious. A trustee may have full legal authority. The estate plan may be perfectly structured. The intent may be completely clear, but access is not legal. It is cryptographic. And the blockchain does not respond to intent. It responds only to valid digital signatures. So when a transition event occurs, the trustee is often left with hardware wallets, seed phrases on metal backups, and instructions written for someone who already understands the system. Now, if even one of those dependencies is misunderstood, then the outcome is not delay. It is the permanent loss of the asset. Not theft, not a recovery error. What gets inherited is not the asset itself, it's the complexity of the system. Now, institutional custody removes some of the technical burden, but it introduces a new, different constraint. When transition events occur, families often assume the custodian becomes the solution. In practice, the first step is rarely asset movement, it is legal validation, probate proceedings, account freezes, internal compliance reviews, and external counsel alignment. The asset still exists, it is still technically secure, it is still documented, but it becomes operationally inaccessible during volatility and the most time sensitive movement in the entire wealth lifecycle. So instead of cryptographic paralysis, it's a complex bureaucratic nightmare. Different systems, same outcome. zero execution when it matters most. Now, most estate plans are designed to define the ownership transfer. Very few are designed to ensure execution. That is the missing layer. At Sovereign Vault Advisory, we do not hold assets and we do not replace custodians. We design the execution architecture that connects the legal authority to the technical reality. That includes structuring multi-signature vault systems with defined succession logic, documenting and validating technical operations in plain language, designing execution protocols, and ensuring that in a transition event, fiduciaries are not making assumptions under pressure. Think of it as the bridge that sits between the legal documents and Bitcoin operational execution. We act as your technical superintendent because in modern wealth structures, the question is no longer who owns it. It is who can actually transfer it correctly under pressure without irreversible error. I'm Caleb Hamill, and if your estate plan defines inheritance clearly but does not define execution, then your succession plan is partially incomplete. Visit sovereignvaultadvisory.com to implement a verified Bitcoin continuity plan for your family.